I want to welcome you all to our February 8 ACT, and ADC and meeting.
PADC.
All right, thank you. So I'm Karen Bro. I want everybody to go around and introduce themselves to the group because we don't all know everybody. So, starting here.
I'm Martin Beer. Recognize the last name. Sally's my mom.
Neil Wrightson.
Sally Beer.
Beth Elder.
Bruce Wright.
Teresa Lansonson.
Peggy Renner.
Robert Nelson.
Marilee Marshall.
Avram Gold.
Beth Kurtmanian.
Hoyt Hillsman.
Bill Hackett.
George Elder.
Felicia Russet. Barbara Paul.
Ron Garber.
And
Ann Shy. Karen Wingard.
Cheryl Bricky.
thank you. Okay, that's everybody, right?
I'm Jerry Nafisi, who keeps track of attendance.
And you'll meet him in a minute. Okay, now, and I want to thank Marilee and Bruce for once again opening their home to us. All right, ACT call to order. How do we do that? I can't remember from last time. Act. I apologize. Act, call to order. Is this something we have to approve or second? All right, okay. Well, I'm calling it to order. And I want to introduce Steve Pierson from the Blue Wave, California. And he's going to tell us all about himself and about what he's doing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Is it okay if I stay seated? Is that good?
We can hear you.
Yeah, you can hear. Okay, good. It's more about volume than about stature, so perfect. First of all, thank you for opening up your home. This is a great turnout, and I see a bunch of old friends. We've been knocking around doing this work together for a while, and you know, I kind of jokingly said when I walked in, we had to stop meeting like this. You know, someday maybe, but not really. You know, because this is the work of being a citizen. You know, and this work never ends. It feels Sisyphean. That boulder keeps coming back down on us, and we have to keep pushing it up. But you know, ideally, this is what it means to be a citizen: is to step up in your life and stand up for your neighbors. And hopefully, we don't have to do it in times like we're living in right now. You know, and for very much longer. But for those of you who don't know me, I consider myself class of November 2016. I used to work in the entertainment industry. I grew up in DC. My dad was counsel to President Johnson. He helped implement the Great Society, Medicaid, Medicare, all the things that Trump is ripping apart right now. I came out here to California and got into the film and TV, owned a sound studio, and when Trump was elected, just wanted to turn my life upside down. And I knew that action is the best antidote for anxiety, something that you all know very well, which is why you're sitting here in this room right now, right? So I was fortunate to get involved with Swing Left early on. We were talking about that. I met a number of you guys back in those days. I was the Southern California field director, and then became their national training director. Like I said, I got addicted to doing this work because, first of all, being in rooms like this, being in community with people like you all, really filled my heart in a way that other stuff I was doing didn't. Not just in these dire times. It's essential in these dire times, but just to be part of, like I said, this, civics and moving our country forward and working for, people that this country has never served in its history, that we still aspire to get there. So, so I sold my studio and was working full time for Swing Left. I ran for office myself. I ran for state assembly. That was an incredible experience that taught me a lot about the inner workings. Having been working as an organizer for a long time, as a candidate, it's a whole different deal. I learned a lot about campaign finance through that. and then ended up going to work for George Whiteside's campaign, and got him elected, helped get him elected, I should say. I didn't do that. Well, you guys had a lot to do with that also, I know. And then I got recruited to run Blue Wave California, and I just feel so blessed to be in a position to make an impact and be of service at this moment in our history. And I know you all feel the same way. As dire as it is to be standing up at this moment and have an impact, it's a pretty humbling thing, you know, and pretty awesome. So Blue Wave California is a relatively new organization. It started last cycle and maxed out to all of the frontliners. It was essentially a digital fundraising PAC that raised money for all of the districts that we flipped, and ended up with some cash on hand and wanted to build out some more prongs to the stool to help us and build to the midterms and beyond. So they brought me on, and we basically do three key things. The first thing we do is direct fundraising for our frontline candidates. And I have some little things on our Victory Fund, but this is the Victory Fund used to be 7 candidates long. Now we have the final 4. So we had the Magnificent 7. Now because of Prop 50, we now have the final 4 candidates. And these are the races that are really going to determine here in California, being the tip of the spear to take back the House. So the way I look at these funds, and this is not a new thing, we kind of took it from Swing Left and their impact funds. But it's a way to, when people are like, where can I make the biggest impact? Where should my dollars go? There's a lot of shiny things. There's a lot of exciting races and candidates that I get excited about. I say, first of all, California gets left out of the fundraising conversation nationally all the time. We get treated like an ATM machine. Candidates come here for money because they look at us like a big blue beacon. But we have some key races, again, that will determine taking back the House here, and we need people to invest in those races. I actually did an event in DC with Speaker Emeritus Pelosi, and I got to make that, criticism. I got to make that speech about, like, I'm here in DC now asking you to invest in California where we need the money. And so the races, the final 4 races, which is not going to come as a surprise to you all, because I know you all are very savvy and have been paying attention to the races, but it's we need to re-elect Adam Gray, who won his race by 187 votes. Prop 50 made his district a little bit more comfortable for him, but he is target number 1 from the Republicans because they see that as their best opportunity to flip a seat. I read an article a couple of days ago, I believe it was in the New York Times, that the average amount of money that Republicans in these red to blue or frontline races have in the bank right now is $2.1 million. They have a massive war chest amassed. Of course, from all the dark money and all these places. They get it.
Where's his district?
Adam Gray is up in Northern California, kind of inland, and
Central.
thank you. And it's a pretty conservative district. It's a tough one, and you might remember, like, he, I think, had to rush to DC to even do orientation. Like, we didn't know that we would win that one, but we did. And we're going to hold that seat. We're going to protect him. The other one that we're going to protect is Derek Tran, who you know very well, down in Orange County. He won by less than 1,000 votes in his race, another very close one. Again, his district has gotten a little bit more comfortable, but he is a top target for the Republicans, and we have to work to protect that seat. And then the 2 flip opportunities we have right now, post-Prop 50, are David Valadeo in the Central Valley, and this one, I can't wait to get this guy out, Daryl Issa. He's not a good person.
How many
So,
Democratic candidates in that district?
how many candidates?
How many Democratic candidates for the primary in that district?
We'll see how it all shakes out. The filing deadline hasn't ended yet, but it's, as I'm sure you know, there's been a lot of movement around since Prop 50. So like the Youngkin and Calvert seats got combined, so they're going against each other. So now what was 40, there's these candidates, some have dropped out, some are moving other places. But it'll be a probably pretty crowded field. Blue Wave, so for those races, importantly, Blue Wave does not get involved in the primaries.
Right.
So this is an impact fund where we're going to lift up the frontliners by putting the red to blue seats all together. And then the money that we raise for those districts, 22 and 48, get held in escrow and given to whoever makes it through the primary.
Good.
The reason we bundle them all together is pretty simple. Defense isn't sexy, and defense doesn't get a lot of investment. Everyone wants to go down and flip a seat, right? So they'll get money, they'll get passion, they'll get volunteers, but the Adam Grays and the Derek Trans are going to be working really hard to get people to invest in these incumbent Democratic seats. So when we tie them all together, this is the impact fund that lifts everybody up. So that's the primary thing that Blue Wave is doing, is raising money. And this is a joint fundraising agreement with them. So, you know, when people donate to this, it counts against their contribution limits. It doesn't go to us and then we disperse it. It's going directly to these candidates. We're just the mechanism that's organizing house parties and fundraisers and events to help raise the money that they need. The second thing that we're doing is message amplification through alternative media, social media, content creators, influencers, and that kind of thing. We're standing up district-specific war rooms to push out messaging. I'm sure you all have had plenty of conversations about democratic messaging. We all like to talk about democratic messaging. I'm a firm believer that the democratic messaging is actually pretty strong. Like our values, what we stand for and what we fight for resonates with most Americans. The biggest problem we have is the delivery system for those messages. And we are so siloed in our where we get our information, and breaking through that with, you know, solely the traditional means and the, you know, putting ads on TV and stuff clearly isn't working. Republicans have been investing in this kind of attack for years, and it has been very effective. They own this battlefield, and we need to invest in it. You know, there's a lot of talk about how Trump went on these manosphere podcasts and got all this press from that. He didn't just go on those. Republicans were investing in those influencers, helping build up their audience, build up their influence. Then they went on those. So, you know, we're starting to do that. We're starting to invest in that. But, you know, I like to look for the holes, right? I like to look at where we have a deficit. And to me, that's the biggest area where we lack in investment and action. Thanks to groups like you and all the great like organizing and volunteer engagement stuff we have, you know, this isn't 2018, you know, anymore. Like we are seasoned. We know how to knock on doors. We know how to phone bank. That exists. That's not a place where Blue Wave California needs to get involved. But this is an area that is underfunded and you know, under-resourced. So that's the second thing that we're doing. And then with any money we have left over, because we are so hyper-focused on these California races and we have such deep relationships along that, we're able to really quickly get like micro grants to those organizations on the ground who are doing like the canvassing work and that stuff. So if they need some more money, even if it's simple like food for canvassers, or you know their field plan is stalling a little bit because they need some help, then we can help out with that. So those are the three prongs of what we're doing, but it's really all about the Victory Fund. One exciting thing, I haven't told anyone about this because and it's not really even for public. I mean, George will probably put that video up on there, but
We won't tell anybody.
but save the date on May 14th. We're doing a big concert at the Wiltern fundraiser for the Victory Fund. We're doing it in partnership with Swing Left and Women's March Los Angeles and some other groups. We're going to be building coalition groups around this, and we're just now getting our asks out to people to perform. But we have, I don't know if you're all familiar with Rufus Wainwright. He's incredible. Just yesterday he is committed to performing. So it's going to be really cool, and Mayor Bass is going to be there too. But that's going to be a really great fundraiser for our Victory Fund. But more than that, it's going to be a really great cultural, coalition moment to kick off the midterms. Not for us, who know that the midterms kicked off as soon as Trump took office, right? We understood, how important it is to organize early and to raise money early and do all that. But for people who aren't paying as much attention, make it a big moment that the midterms are here and we all need to get involved. So stuff like that. We're going to do a comedy show. We've done candidate forums. We're going to do another candidate forums after the primary with the new candidates in our red and blue districts. And then we're doing regular fundraisers, of course, and lots of house parties. So, my ask of you all is, we need to do some house parties up around Pasadena and get some more people involved. And so I would love your help doing that as well. I talked a lot. Yes, perfect. Let's have some questions.
To go back, could you talk a little bit more, whatever you're able to talk about, where you talked about nurturing on social media and influencers? I don't know if that includes podcasts or whatever, but I'd love to hear more about what you're doing in that arena, because I think I know most of the groups I work with, we're all, working on that and trying things, but it's a struggle.
Yeah, it is, and it's like, who are the right people to engage with?
Could you bring up the Practivist, your podcast?
Yeah.
Okay.
So I host a podcast with Jess Craven.
Oh, yeah.
You probably know her.
She's
called
been coming to our Pasadena rallies.
Yes, yeah, I know. I was with her actually that's where I saw George. Was
Right.
at
That maybe where
one of us, probably, yeah.
It's just
So I actually started, a podcast for Swing Left back in 2019 called How We Win. And I've been a podcaster since. My background before I got into this, I owned a sound studio, so it was a natural fit. And I always looked at, and I still do, that show and the Practivist Pod as like a big megaphone, sort of what we call the large end of the funnel, to get people into this work, to give them some hope, to give them some practical ways to get involved, to show them that they have agency, that they can make an impact, and that they're not alone. And so, to answer your question, we want to support political shows like the Practivists and others. And I'm, right now kind of working out some stuff with Midas Touch to get involved as well. But beyond that, like a lot of the stuff we need to support are just straight up cultural shows that are what we call blue coded, right? That aren't overtly political, but where these content creators or influencers can slide in some messaging for us and everything, because they're, I don't want to call it a Trojan horse, but it's kind of like that, when we look at like the deficit we have with young men. And I say that with sadness because we have an existential issue with young men in our country right now. And the algorithm, when they're on YouTube or wherever, just feeds them down this very destructive manosphere. So we can counter that by just adding more programming that's, non-toxic masculinity and positive role models. And they don't have to be overtly political, but then they can highlight our issues and champion our issues. So there's some of that. And then in terms of like the social media amplification, I'm involved in some they're basically these big signal groups filled with these massive influencers, people who have, hundreds of thousands of followers. And so we can, on a very quick and large scale, spin up messaging. It's incredibly compelling because traditional politics, you go and do some focus groups, you go do some canvassing and ask what issues are important, and you figure out, okay, these are the top issues that people want to hear, are important to them, and then you go talk about those issues, right? That's traditional politics. But we've been able to know that, like, okay, here's some issues that aren't in like the top 3 that people are thinking about, but this is a dire issue that they need to be thinking about and that we are leading on as Democrats. So one example of that was the attacks on Social Security, right? So, and this was the previous midterms when we started running hands off our Social Security as a hashtag, and we were able to get that to trend like #1 on all the platforms and on Twitter. And so all of a sudden all the journalists are there, so they see that, they start talking about it, it gets out there into the lexicon, candidates start talking about it, and then we go back and do the polling, and all of a sudden Social Security is a top issue that people are thinking about. So it's kind of reverse engineering that. So it's taking that model that we've been doing a lot nationally and making it more district specific, using a lot of those same people with those big platforms to help amplify Derek Tran's stuff, Adam Gray's stuff, to highlight how terrible ISA is, and so on. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you have to be a little careful about who you let into those groups too, right? So that's the tricky thing. And you don't want to just like throw money at an influencer and say, okay, you're gonna do this. And there's some groups that are doing good work, and there are some groups that are well-meaning and have done some good work, but have also run into some problems with that. So it's kind of a little bit of a Wild West right now, and I pride myself in the relationships we have because I've been in this progressive media space for a long time.
You mentioned Jess and her podcast and that, but what do you do any work with Robert Hubble?
Yeah, a little bit. Jess is very close with Robert. They're good friends. He had me on his Substack, and he's been promoting Blue Wave California on his show, and suggesting it as a model for where people could donate money to and stuff like that. So we've been working together a little bit. We'll work together some more. Yeah, he's great.
Our organization's efforts have been primarily at the local offices,
Mm-hmm.
City council, board of whatever. How do you see yourself being available, maybe perhaps through grants or whatever, if we identify some local, school board or whatever campaign that needs some help, would you be a source of assistance in that? Or?
It's a great question. We do have a small state fund, and we have given a little bit of money to some state candidates and city stuff. It's tough. Like for me, it has to be in some relation to what we're doing to flip the house. So if these are people who have supported these candidates or want to support these candidates, or are very aligned with that, there's some like political reasons. I mean, you guys are savvy, there's political reasons to donate to people who are then going to go and support the Victory Fund, or maybe do an event with us or something like that. I don't, that's sort of the way that works. We are 100. Our organization, our operating fund, is 100% grassroots. We don't have any major donors. It's all grassroots donations from all over the country, and these are people who donate to us because, for all the reasons we're sitting in this room, because they're pissed off, they're scared, they're activated, they want to put a stop to Trump and his regime, and they want to flip the house. So I take that to heart when it's someone who's donated $2 or someone who's donated $20 or whatever, that's why they're donating this money. So to answer your question, we do have a state fund, we have given some, but I really want to see the connective tissue on
Sure.
that. because that's the promise that we give as an organization and why people donate to us. Yep.
So I understand that you're involved with fundraising, but you're also involved in messaging. And I'm trying to think of your strategic meetings when you're looking at where can we apply what resources we have to move the needle into getting us back into a place of sanity in this country. Now, we know that the independents are the largest registered voters. And I'm wondering if you're considering, how do we reach the independents who are now beginning to wake up and say, wait a minute, did we make the right decision? And especially the Trump voters who are saying, we didn't sign up for this. Are you developing any kind of strategy in a way of breaching that gap, that gorge, to somehow communicate with people who are saying, is there an answer, or is just forget it all?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think, like, in terms of those kind of voters, the stuff that we're really amplifying is the stuff that we all find horrific right now, and it's cutting to the core for all of us. These ICE raids, what's happened here in Los Angeles, in our cities around here, and what we're seeing in Minneapolis and all that. That's where even in like the manosphere, those places, there was that comedian, Andrew Schultz or whatever, that podcast, Joe Rogan, these guys have all come out and said, wait, this is not what we thought it was going to be, and Trump lied to us. And they're like, I guess he lied to us. Said they're going to go after the worst. So when we amplify that for those disaffected Republican voters, we're not trying to push any messaging on them, because honestly, I don't, like, my opinion is, there's a blockade to what we can do there. But those cracks are happening in a way that I haven't seen in the MAGA coalition ever, really. And they're happening on their own, to the extent that they are questioning and saying, well, this isn't true, this isn't like, then that's the stuff that we continue to uplift and show. It's so important, like, the atrocities being committed by ICE right now are so difficult to look at, but the media still isn't covering it to the extent that it needs to be covered. And everyone needs to see it with their own eyes. And I hate that we have to see it with our own eyes. I'm tired of looking at snuff films of our fellow citizens who are out there, standing up for their neighbors. And I want to look away. But we have to keep putting it out there, and that's been effective. The Epstein stuff is very effective too, because this is an issue that they were championing on. It turns out, like, what binds us all together in this fractured country of ours is our wanting pedophiles to be accountable and go to jail, right? And so the administration keeps trying to distract and push that away. We keep pushing that up. So that's kind of what I think about that. The other thing that I would just say is, as an entity, Blue Wave California isn't really developing or pushing out specific messaging as a strategy. We're helping amplify what the campaigns are doing, what the candidates are doing. We're a carry pack, first of all, so we have, if you guys know what that means, we're a hybrid pack. We have the ability to work directly with the candidates, and then we have stuff that we do that's not with the candidates. So in this regard, we can amplify their social media posts, we can amplify the messages that are effective on a district level, on a local level, like Adam Gray, like water is a huge issue in his district, and those kind of issues. So that's why you can get even more specific and strategic when you do it on a small.
But on your own podcast, are you inviting everybody to the table? I would assume you are.
But what do you mean, everybody?
Well, not everybody, but people who saying, are there answers other than what I've been told from Trump? I mean, you are a messenger, correct? You deliver messages.
I'm a messenger, yes, yeah. On my podcast, like, I'm very progressive myself, and it's an interesting space to be in. I'm sure a lot of you feel this way. Most of us who work in, as an activist tend to be more progressive, and often we find ourselves working to get Democrats elected in more conservative areas where, we understand how important it is to get them elected, and we see eye to eye with them on most issues, but maybe not all of the issues, So I don't mince words on my podcast. That's my platform. I don't platform Republicans or anything like that, if that's what you're asking on my show. We do have I've had guests from voting rights groups that are technically nonpartisan, and that kind of stuff. But and we have candidates on there. I've had all our candidates on there except Adam Gray. I have not had on. And I'm actually talking, like I mentioned, Midas Touch. I'm talking about with D-Trip and Midas Touch about doing interviews with all the frontliners, not just in California, but being the guy that interviews a bunch of frontliners and getting that content out there. That's a little bit separate, but that's a long-winded explanation, but it's one of the people on our advisory board is a woman named Jennifer Fernandez Ancona, who is the executive director of a group called Way to Win. And they do a lot of great fundraising for candidates, especially candidates of color and women, which is their focus. But they also do amazing work on messaging, and they have great resources for people who do that too. So she's a great source for us too. But honestly, we're really on the district level, spitting out and helping amplify the stuff that's important to that district.
Got it.
Yeah.
Could you just talk a little bit about the size of your operating budget and maybe some number stuff in terms of the kind of, the trying to look at that you have on various
No way,
campaigns,
they'll pass.
how that works. And secondly, I just wondered, because the work seems so similar, wondered if you have any relationship with the Focus for Democracy, because they're more of a national organization, but they're doing very similar work. They're targeting these, candidates who can flip the House and the Senate and et cetera. And very similar organizational structure.
Yeah. I'll talk about that first. Yes, please. We need more people doing that. Sadly, George and I were talking about this a little bit. I had the president of End Citizens United on my show a few weeks ago. The dark money, the money that Republicans have access to, the kind of mega donors they have access to, completely dwarfs what we have access to. Although we completely kick their ass when it comes to grassroots individual donations. There's way more of us than there are of them donating. And many times we're able to actually compete with these mega donors just with our grassroots donations. But to do that, you need a lot of people organizing and raising money for these candidates, right? So yes, there's other organizations raising money for these candidates, and that's great. That's a good thing. We're not in competition with each other. It's expanding the circles. It's the same structure as what I'm talking about, even with house parties. You're going to introduce new people in the community to it. You're going to build. It's going to, do that. So, in terms of the structure of our org, it's pretty lean. I have a senior advisor who used to be the political director of the California Democratic Party, who actually started the org and recruited me as the executive director. And there's mostly vendors, so we have a compliance firm, obviously. That's important so that we do everything legally and don't get put in jail. That's important to me. And they're in DC. We have our digital fundraising team that does all of the annoying emails and texts that are incessant and endless. I apologize. People ask me all the time, it's the same thing as knocking on doors, because I'm sure you guys have heard this before. Or phone banking is a good one, that people you call someone, they say, I'm getting so many phone calls, if one more person calls me, I'm not even gonna go vote, right? That's bullshit. Like you can't call someone so many times that they don't vote. But we know that it takes like 7 contacts with somebody who is a low propensity voter to get them to go vote. So say, sorry to bother you, and make that next phone call, keep calling and everything. And people ask me, like, why do these fundraising texts, like, why are they so incessant? They come and they're so annoying. Why do people keep doing those? Isn't everyone annoyed by them? And I'm like, you know, they wouldn't do them if they didn't work, if they weren't raising money. If they stopped raising money, then those tactics would stop. So anyway, so there's that digital fundraising. We have a social media manager, and that's the team. As we build up right now, we're definitely, like a lot of orgs, sadly, you have the off year, on year kind of cycle, build and push. And I wish more orgs could really be fully staffed year round. But like last quarter was dismal for fundraising, you know, and the holidays and all that. So when I would like to be scaling up, we are not scaling up as quickly, but that's just where we are. We're going to be adding a development director in the next couple of weeks and an organizing director as well.
So what is your operating budget roughly, the annual?
Our annual budget right now, I don't know if I should say that. Yeah, I mean, we have what we aspire to and what we're lean right now. I mean, our monthly nut's about $15,000 a month right now. It's really low. You know, everything is transparent, and the money that we're raising goes straight to the candidates, so we don't have a lot of cash on hand because we're doing it that way. But we aim to raise over the next year through the midterms $1 million for our candidates and $1 million for the org and the other stuff as well. So,
Great.
Yeah.
Thanks.
So I did
Great
listen
question,
to
though.
your
Appreciate it.
podcast on End Citizen United, and
Yeah.
that's been a mantra of mine forever. But are you saying then that money goes more to the Republicans? I guess I didn't.
Yeah, well, they have more of the big donors than we do, you know, no doubt. And because of the Citizens United decision, you have, I mean, you guys know all this, but you know, you have these massive super PACs, and there's no transparency about who's donating that money, and so dark money can infiltrate. You know, Citizens United basically combined these things that made like corporations people, and that people could get unlimited money and on certain circumstances. So it's been horrible. We wouldn't have Donald Trump in office right now if it wasn't for Citizens United. I believe that. So George and I were talking about this before. Sadly, it's like as we're trying to get the political will to reform our campaign finance system, we have to play with the rules that are in place right now, and you know, we don't have a fairness doctrine anymore, you know, so like the money it takes to run these campaigns just is astronomical. It's more and more, it's so egregious, it's disgusting, but it's where we are. It's what we have to do to compete to get these fascists out of there. So.
Any more questions for Steve?
Oh, what was the date of the big event, Steve?
May 14th. We'll be making announcements. I encourage you all, I didn't bring a sign-up sheet, but you know, go to bluewavecalifornia.org and sign up there, so make sure you're on our email list, and you know, you'll get all of our events, and that's going to be a good one. And I do have some of these here to pass around. I do have QR codes, you know, so I come handy with that. If you want to, haven't had a chance to donate to these candidates yet, and you want to make a contribution, I encourage that as well. Yeah.
And I just wanted to recommend the group that we had at Oktoberfest. I was looking it up. I think they were next doors
The next
Is that
doors,
the-
yeah, they come to, they've been playing at a lot of the big rallies
Yeah,
in
I
Pasadena.
don't know,
They're great.
so maybe for your event, they would be
Oh,
a
cool.
good group there from Altadena, and they were good,
Oh, fun.
so.
Fun. Yeah, and if anyone is interested in doing a fundraiser or a house party and getting involved, just like, I'm here, let's, we don't have to like sign up, but just give me your info and we'll get you started. I think I brought like our house party guide too, just in case you're curious, but you guys are pros. I don't need to teach you how to do that, but like I said, we could use your help. So, thank you so much for your time and for inviting me. I really appreciate it.